Hey, Kim. So, we're gonna make apple pie today. My little sister is having a Tupperware party. All my hostesses get to tell me, what's your favorite thing? And I'll teach somebody how to make it. And she picked apple pie. So we'll make apple pie. That's something we've been doing since we were kids, and it's a really yummy thing to have after. So let's do it. Ingredients. Not a lot going in here. You'll find most super yummy old school recipes don't have that many ingredients. It doesn't have to be hard, it just needs to be good. So I've got some flour, a few tablespoons, not much, just to thicken things up, right? Sugar, apples. I'm using Granny Smith. A lot of people make this really common mistake where they pick the biggest, ripest, most juicy type of apple they can find. Your Red Delicious, your Honey Gold. Don't do that. When you choose those really juicy apples, that juice needs to go somewhere, and it's gonna turn your apple pie into apple soup. It'll happen. So I pick a nice tart, small, compact little guy, and we're gonna just peel them and pile them in there. Let's see, nutmeg, okay? Ground cinnamon, a little bit of salt, lemon juice. The lemon juice is for the apples. You don't want to put your manky brown apples that have been sitting in the bowl into your pie. You want to put your good, nice, crisp, beautiful apples into the pie so they'll look like that after, right? I'm cheating and I'm using a store-bought pie crust, and there is nothing wrong with that. You do you. I'll teach you at some point how to make pie crust by hand. It's doable, but some of us have to work tomorrow. So, we're gonna make pie. Are you ready? Yay. Okay, so to me, the biggest pain in the rear for apple pie, peeling the apples. But for my birthday this year, we went to an apple orchard. It's called Justice Orchards, and it's in Hendersonville, and it's so cool. And they have this little donut cider shed thing, and you gotta go if you're near there. But they're also selling this cool little apple peeler, and I got it, and check this out. You just put your apple in here, right? It's got these little tines. It's got a little lever in the back so you can let your tines go. So I'm gonna scoot it up here. Check this out. Look. I have an apple. It's peeled and cored. So now, check it out. If I can get this where you can see it. All I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this top part off that still has the peel on it, right? Nobody wants that in their lives. So, gone, right? From both ends. Okay. Peeled, cord. Cut down. Look, it's little thinly sliced pieces of apple. Check it out. This is gonna be so fast for me. I love my new toy. I'm just saying. Okay, so I've peeled all of my apples and cored them. I've sliced them into little pieces. As you go, especially if it's gonna take you a long time because you don't have a handy dandy thing like I do, a little splash of lemon juice goes a long way. A lot of people think that they should put their apple slices in water because it keeps them from turning brown. Don't do that. A little brown ain't gonna kill you, 1. 2, the lemon juice will keep it from browning, and it'll be fine. You don't want to put it in water because the apples are gonna soak up all of that water, and then you're once again gonna end up with apple soup instead of apple pie. So 6 cups of apples. You can always have more apples. Okay, we're gonna use a lot of apples. Trust me. Once you have your apples peeled and sliced and in your bowl, we're gonna do 3/4 of a cup of sugar. So we'll just put that in there with the apples, okay? 2 tablespoons of all-purpose flour. So, again, baking, right? This part isn't so precise. You're putting flour in here to kind of thicken everything so that you end up with that awesome ooey gooey apple pie filling instead of just apples, right? You want it to be thick. So a little bit of sugar, a little bit of flour, a little bit of everything else, and we'll have a fun filling. So, okay, there's our flour. We need 3/4 of a teaspoon of ground cinnamon. So, ground cinnamon, let's see, 3/4. So here's a half. And we'll put a little more in there. Here's a 1/4. I'm using the Tupperware measuring spoons. I have been using the Tupperware measuring spoons for years. The new ones are red, and I'm using those because they're the new ones and I'm on a video. I have some blue ones. I love them. I don't know. They're just handy and they fit just right in your hand. And they've got a little hole, so I keep mine on a little ring when I'm not using them, so I don't lose them. All right, 3/4 of a teaspoon of ground cinnamon. We need 1/4 of a teaspoon of salt. Be careful with your salt. I am kind of lazy, but I would suggest that you guys maybe pour it over the sink, right? You don't want to accidentally drop the salt in there. What else do we need? 1/8 of a teaspoon, it's this little guy, of ground nutmeg. You don't have to put nutmeg in your pie. I really enjoy having a little bit of that nutmeg flavor in there, so that's what I do. Okay, so, and then we've done our lemon juice already. So they will normally say a tablespoon of lemon juice. You're eyeballing your lemon juice. It's to help your apples, okay? That's it, that's all your lemon juice is for. So, put your hands in here and get a little dirty, right? Make sure you've washed your hands first, obviously. You're just gonna gently toss all of this together until you have this kind of floury concoction, right? With all the sugar and you just want it to all be on the apples, right? You don't want to leave a whole bunch of stuff at the bottom of your bowl because the apples are what's going in your pie. So you mix it up. We made a mixture. Next, we're going to put a pie crust in. We're going to move on. This is one of the Tupperware microfiber towels, and can I just tell you that I love it so much. It soaks up everything. I'm on my second recipe today, and I've wiped down my counter over and over and over, and I've, you know, it's still going. It's going to last through the night, and I don't normally have that experience with my kitchen towels, so just putting that out there. Okay, so now we've got our apple mixture, and I've got my pre-made pie crust. I've got 2 of them. I always get the 2-pack for pie that needs a top, right? So we're just gonna shake it down out of this little sleeve. You want to thaw these a little bit, right? You don't want them to be super cold, or you might have a harder time getting them unrolled. So you just kind of thaw them out on the counter. Lift your little edge here. I've got this on my silicone baking mat. The reason I have done that is because I'm really bad for tearing a pie crust, especially these pre-made guys. So I roll it out on the baking mat because it's silicone and way less likely to tear my crust. And I'm bad for that. So, and it won't stick to your, you know, it's not gonna stick to your countertop if it's not on your countertop. So silicone is my favorite thing. So look, I have spread out my crust, okay? I have a glass pie pan. Use what you want, I don't care. I'm just gonna take this crust and I'm gonna let it kind of drape itself into this little pie plate. You're gonna be real careful, try to get it to where it's even, which I'm also not great at. Okay, so once you get it in there, you're just gonna kind of press the sides down firmly, right? You kind of want there to be a little lip to your crust. You'll see. Yay. So we've got our ingredients. We've got a spatula. Use a spoon. I don't care what you use your hands. Don't matter. I use the silicone spatula because it lets me get everything out, which I love. We're gonna put it all in here in this pie crust. Here we go. Pie crust. Here we go. Get in there. Go on. It's gonna seem like you put too many apples in here. You didn't. You put everything you can cram in, okay? All of it. Because they're gonna shrink. right? You're gonna end up with a lame looking pie if you don't put enough apples in there. So you want it to be rounded over. You don't want there to be any holes. So try to, there's our oven. We've preheated it, by the way, to 425. Get in about a half. There we go. Apples. We want it rounded over. It's gonna go down a little bit. You don't want to have a wussy looking pie, okay? All right, so a lot of times when I make an apple pie, I'll do a lattice, but you don't have to. I'm going to show you the easy way instead, because we're all about easy tonight, okay? Except for getting this out of here. There it goes. Okay, so once again, I'm using my silicone baking mat, and I'm just going to get it started, and I'm going to roll it out and get it kind of flat. Try not to tear it. If you do, I've already said it, I think, but if I didn't, just dip your fingers in some water, get them wet, get the edges of your tear wet, and then pinch them together. That's how you fix that, okay? So, now I have a flat pie crust. We're gonna drop it over top. Easy enough. So, you've got these little edges, right? That are sticking out around the sides. You want your pie crust to seal. You want to have this weird steamy environment where everything can be done at once. See, I've got a tear. I'm gonna have to fix that because I don't want my steam to get out. I want it to kind of make this gooey, soupy, beautiful thing. So here's some good news. See this? Wet fingers right here. I'm just gonna patch it. A little patch. Trust me, it's gonna taste good. Okay, so you can kind of pull up your crust, right? So it's not all manky around the edges. Probably don't do it with your wet fingers, but here we are. So once I get it in there, I'm gonna grab a little fork and I'll make it prettier. And that'll also kind of help keep the steam in. So, here we go. We've kind of got all our edges together. We fixed our little problem area. Yep. I need a fork. Fork. Ever wonder how pies look so pretty around the edges and how they do that? Pretty easily. Take your fork and just press it with the tines around the edge. Don't poke holes in your cake, right? We are actually going to poke holes in our cake later, which I realize is kind of counterintuitive, but the steam will eventually cause issues. But we want it to be our holes. We don't want it to be accident holes, right? And that's why we're fixing our tears. So, see how I did that? Done. Hey. After that, you do want a couple little slits. I'm gonna grab a knife real quick. Hold on. Couple of little slits. You can do designs, shapes. It don't matter what you do. But I'm just gonna do like 4 little. Let the steam out slits, right? Little tinies. Go. And I'm gonna do a little wash. You can do a wash multiple ways, right? But I didn't prepare for the wash, so I'm gonna just put a little milk on it. You can do eggs, an egg wash. A little bit of milk goes a long way. It'll just kind of help the crust be a little bit shiny, right? And if I had been thinking about this, I'd have a little brush and I'd make it pretty, but I don't. So instead, I'm just gonna use a little paper towel. I'm gonna dip it in my milk and I'm just gonna pat it on there. You don't need extra special things to make extra special things. So keep that in mind. If you're sitting at home and you're like, but I don't have a silicone baking mat and I don't have a glass pie pan and I don't, you don't need that stuff. It's fun to have. If you want one, I'll totally sell it to you, but to make yummy, good, wholesome food that your kids will love. You don't have to work that hard. You don't. You just have to care enough to make it. So I'm gonna pop this in the oven. I want to say probably 45 minutes. It's at 425 though, so let me double check that because my brain. Let's see. Yeah, 45 minutes. You're just gonna watch it. You'll know when it's the right color. I will take some strips of tinfoil after about the first 15 minutes and I'll put them around the edges, right? Because you don't want the edges to burn while you're cooking the rest of it. This is gonna cook so much faster than all that thick gooey goodness on the inside. So after about 15, 20 minutes, I'll put some tinfoil around the edges and that'll keep my crust from burning and looking hideous, okay? And my milk will make it shiny. See you soon. Okay, we've got pie, y'all. So, see, I've got my little strips of aluminum foil that kept my crust from burning. Apple pie, easy peasy. It's not sunk down because we piled it up first. You want it to cool for at least 2 hours on a wire rack before you cut into it. If you don't, all your apples are gonna run out and won't stick together like it's supposed to. But in the meantime, one of the best desserts.